All right, hello there. My name is David Crest. I want to thank you all for coming. I know you had a choice of 6 other presentations to attend. I'm glad you decided to attend this one. I am a GIS analyst with Timmons Group. I am a full-time embedded contractor on site with the client, which is the North Carolina. It's the GIS unit group within the North Carolina Department of Information Technology Transportation. I'm saying this, I'm not just kissing up to the client, but it's a really nice group, wonderful group of people. I just feel lucky to have this position.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have David with us. I'm Eric Wilson. I'm the GIS manager for the GIS unit. Like David said, we serve the agency NCDOT, North Carolina Department of Transportation. It's part of the optimization that occurred back in 2018 where we have a dedicated client. So our unit's about 800 strong across a whole variety of IT responsibilities. We serve NCDOT alone and all the facets that they perform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of introduce it and I'll let David take it from there. The product that we're talking about today is an automation set of tools. It's really cool. And the thing I just wanted to highlight is some of the services that the team that David's on, and there's some folks in the room who are on that team too, that are out there that they perform and they do really well at getting the client exactly what they need. We provide a statewide file geo database, a CTP study area geo database. A lot of work went into custom tools for automating data processing, calculations. A lot of work went into researching and building map templates. A lot of guides and documentation that support this work. And one of the bigger things that's out there too that I just wanted to highlight is the amount of metadata that we generate related to this product. It's an essential part. We've spoken about in the keynote that we just had. So much of what we do at DOT that we put out to the public, we try to stress that metadata that needs to be attached to the data that we place out there in the public sphere so people know what they're getting into and how it can serve their needs. And I'm really proud of this team. David's representing, like I said, a lot of folks, and they've really done some great work working with a client that had come to us out of the blue at one point, and they said they wanted some support in automating their procedures to generate these comprehensive transportation plans. And then working together as a unit, they generated this tool set that was originally an ArcGIS desktop and then it's rolled over to ArcGIS Pro. And so Dave will talk a little bit about that as well. So I'm really excited for him to discuss it for you, and we'll be around after the presentation if you have any questions. So.
All right, thanks, Eric. All right, I'm going to get back out where I can just do this. All right, so what I'm going to do here in quite a short period of time is talk about how the GIS capabilities and this really carefully designed geodatabase facilitates the North Carolina Department of Transportation, the Transportation Planning Department, in creating their recommendations for CTP's comprehensive transportation plans. They're 30-year plans, and they do get published of highway, multimodal recommendations, highway, bike, ped, public transportation, and multi-use path. And rail does get included as well. So I'm going to show you an example of a really nice one. CTP program discussing information. Some of the information there are automatically produced products of some of these custom-made CTP tools based on what was entered for recommendations and making data-driven decisions. That seems to be the key phrase at this conference. And then I'm going to go into kind of the schema of the database, how things are done, and then show examples of how that data that's entered for recommendations is actually linked, is all linked together and helps what's entered is reflected in these reports and maps and so forth. So this is open. This is a DOT's great website, Connect NCDOT. So if you go in here to projects, I'm actually going to use this one. And then click on planning. And then comprehensive transportation plans. Let's see. I'm going to give a shout out to Go and See. That's our ArcGIS online portal for DOT. Loads of information there for you. So you can actually look at these individual transportation plans. I'm going to click beautiful Macon County in the western part of the state. Click on Macon County. There's a summary, and there is a fairly new transportation plan along with an appendix. So I'll click on this. There's I have some key. So in the beginning, it's got some nice, there's some really nice infographics. Kind of, it's very easy to read. This is designed for the public. It's easy on the eyes. It's a lot of data visualization. Explains the process of the CTP and the improvements needed and recommended. So I'm gonna go down to, there's the NCOD project delivery process, and you start getting into the fun stuff, the maps. These are just kind of some basic maps of their transportation plans. Macon County, of course, is very rural, really rural. It's got Highlands and Franklin, I believe. Basically only two towns, and they're small. It's like a good place to get away from it all. So these are highway features, just kind of some basic base maps. Here's an inset of Franklin County. And these maps you're looking at are actually templates where the engineers don't really do much, but import what's known as a study area geodatabase. I'm going to go into that in a minute here. Everything is symbolized and set up and symbol queries, definition queries, everything's all set up. So they point a template to their geodatabase and whatever they input shows up. These were carefully designed. Then you've got a recommendation list. This is actually an example of an output of a tool. I'm going to show you a quick example here later on at the end of the presentation. It lists kind of an easy to read recommendations, highway recommendations in this case for Macon County. And these are map IDs, the 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers along the left column. These are map IDs, and that comes from the database. This is automatically created with our custom tool. Just kind of gives you the title of the recommendation and a description. And then we can go on to some other maps, which is kind of just there's public transportation and rail facilities. Again, these are templates and so forth. So, and then you've got your public transportation and project recommendations. You get into the bike ped recommendations, and then there's the list for those recommendations. So that's essentially the CTP from Macon County. If you go into the appendix, checking certain page numbers I want to show, is where all the loads of information is stored. And this is for, now Macon County, it's a study area. Most study areas for these CTPs are counties, but some are also NPOs and RPOs, made up of multiple counties. So if you go, it's all kinds of, maps and information here. But if you get down to, in this case, it's going to be, you've got just some basic maps. There's crash information. Again, these are old templates. And I'm going to go down, and then you actually see things like volume over capacity. Again, more templates. These are all designed down to the labels and the boxes and the color codes. All that data is sitting inside a study area geo database. And you've got, let's see here, insets and so forth of the towns. And then there was, I'm going to go way down to page 96 here. So each one of these recommendations has what's called, in this case, a highway project sheet. And here is one I'm actually going to highlight in the presentation. It's an 8-mile section of 64 through the mountains. And this is actually created from scratch automatically by one of the tools based on data entered by the engineers for this particular recommendation. And that is done for all recommendations in this particular CTP. So, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. So all this information is coming out of a geo database. So you've got, and this is all created from scratch. There's no template PDF. This is all, we have a really, really good programmer in the GS unit. I consider him gifted. One of those guys where you wish you were just so lucky to be as good as him. He's great. I work with him a lot, and so he designed this. There's a Python library. I forgot what it's called, but he's able to customize PDFs, And all this data is sitting in a study area geodatabase. So I'm going to move on back to the slideshow. So these are things I already showed you. Oh, that's actually a CTP. It's a bit old, but it's a CTP process flowchart. The maps and reports are just 2 yellow boxes. It's an extensive process, but this is where the GIS comes in. I already showed you that. I'm going to skip that. Brunswick County. So this, it's called the CTP Statewide Geo Database. It's got like 153 all authoritative feature classes, data sources at the engineer's fingertips to bring into their projects whenever they want. There are some key feature classes that serve as where there's intakes for their recommendations in rail and highway exits and route characteristics. So what I wanted to show you is some of this data comes from the statewide geodatabase offerings in the GS Data Layers website. And these data layers are updated quarterly. An important one is the NC road characteristics, and that is basically the linear reference system, the network of all the roads. Every single road down to your highway, your neighborhood cul-de-sac, all those events are flattened into one file, heavily segmented file called NC road characteristics. And North Carolina actually has, for this roads in the state system, state supported, they are in length of miles of roadways because there's a whole bunch of rural roads. All the county roads are all in the state system, state supported. We're second in the nation to Texas. So I just wanted to show where some other key data sets come from. The AAT data, the annual traffic data comes from a public source, and this gets incorporated into when you make your study area. Also, we have over 50 environmental feature classes. I go ahead and update whatever is updated each quarter. These are just the fun ones for pretty pictures to look at. The NC wetlands, NHD flow lines, high resolution, floodplains, things like that. So the CTB ribbon, this is all done ARC Pro now. So our programmer made this ribbon. And one of the first things you do is you have the statewide database updated quarterly, so you have the latest road data and other features. You open this tool, and what you want to do is you have a county layer from your statewide geodatabase. In this case, it's Chatham. You highlight it. Then you click your base year. Your base year is the year of traffic data you want to incorporate and get transferred onto your output study area geodatabase into a layer here called study roads. That's where that's all going to go. And study roads is where they input recommendations for data for the recommendations, excuse me. So you've got your county boundaries pre-selected. You just type in, like, say, Chatham County. It auto-populates the output database to the same location, gives it a CTP and a date extension. And that's pretty much all you do. And then so it does a whole bunch of clipping, and there's certain data layers that are identified where it includes within whatever buffer you want outside of, say, Chatham County. So it does a lot of processing. It doesn't just do clipping, but it creates some other feature classes and gives you an output study area geodatabase. This is a screen graph from Pro with the list of tools along the top. There's some data tools. There's other, like, capacity tools can populate capacity variables, and there's an environmental Title VI data screen. That's our newest tool. And then there's tools on the right side that all crank out reports based on the data entered into their study area geodatabase. So this is just what it looks like. I just dragged the county in, highlight it, run this tool. It's an Esri add-in, by the way. So the key features I have highlighted here are the feature classes where they intake recommendations data. These happen to be the state-supported roads in Franklin County. And I also wanted to show from the study roads feature class, and they also wanted to show the client, TPD, wanted to see the non-system roads within the city limits. So those get included there. And so now I want to go down through real quickly. Next 4 slides, it's the schema of a study area geodatabase. And the schema is designed for all variables associated with highway recommendation scenarios to be represented. So the key thing to know about this has been kind of an in-progress, ever-evolving project, working closely with TPDs on getting things down to exactly like what a value in a domain should say. Should we put a dash in it? You know, we're getting that detailed because to meet their scenarios. So the project as a whole is ever evolving and continuously improving as more scenarios are encountered. So the methodologies change to meet the TPD's needs. So that's really important. I just want to get that across. So we have here, when we begin with all the attributes, of study area geodatabase, you have all these fields that get carried over from NC road characteristics, and you've got some key domains there. And then so what you start with on the upper right is NC route characteristics, and it goes into NC route characteristics process, which is a simplified version. And then when you create your study area, it goes out into study roads. So moving on down, we have annual average daily traffic data. That's where that all goes in from those feature classes. We have a system facility type calculation tool. This is one of the tools, and that creates that. The highway local ID, that's the unique ID for a recommendation, which can be made up from 1 to 50 road segments. And these road segments all, of course, have measures along them. And then you have a highway map ID, which can be made up of more than one local ID, the unique identifier for your recommendation. And that map ID is displayed so it's easy to identify which recommendations you're talking about. And then you've got your volume data. Remember those volume data and capacity maps that I showed in the CTP PDF? That's where that comes in. So there's a lot of, really a big wealth of data here. Then we move on down. Now we have, we got the capacity populations that get populated from the capacity calculation tool. And then you have, there's also like growth rate and there's a calculation formula that populates the year approaching the roadway is approaching capacity and the year that's over capacity. There's your volume and capacity ratios. And now we're into public transportation recommendations. There's your local ID and your map ID for that, for public transportation, and just kind of some key public transportation domain values there. I just want to show this snippet here where there's the output reports actually have like the value from the map ID actually gets put onto the map and into the recommendations list output port. So we're going on down. Now we're down to the bike ped recommendations. Just a snippet of how it appears in the maps and some key domains there. So the CTP maps reflect the data that's entered in the CTP Geo Database. So you have map ID 4, bike ped map ID 2. These get reflected in the maps you see here in Macon County. You got a cross section 03A. Keep that, memorize that. I'm gonna show you that in a second. So, and the reports reflect data entered in the CTP Geo Database. So you got two accompanying tables. Actually, we have 3 accompanying tables in the Geo Database: project sheets, long text tool, and project proposals. And that text is all linked back to, they've got the highway local ID. That ID is in those tables. Information in those tables then gets cranked out into custom output PDFs listing other recommendations. And now these project highway reports, same kind of thing from these tables. There's information in there that gets this is what populates the project report. And then there's a really cool tool called a long text tool. So there's we've got a table called the project sheet long text table that accompanies the CTP Geo Database. And so instead of it's, like a 2,000 character wide field, instead of saying they're typing all this text, there's actually our programmer had this interface he programmed to actually write in your custom text using some tags for underlines. And that all gets filled into page 2 of the highway project sheet. And that is really, really handy. And then when you output the project sheet, there's your cross-section number 3A that was identified in the Geo Database in the field there I showed you earlier. So I know I am about 30 seconds from getting yanked out of here. I'm going to show a video real quick. It's seconds, a video or 2. So since I don't have my laptop here plugged in with Pro, by the way, I'm here for the rest of the day and tomorrow. I'd be happy to show you this in action on my work laptop anytime. Just let me know or email me. So this is the These tools are dead simple. This is not an exciting video. But this is like the highway project sheet tool. There's your recommendations. I selected one. I drag in my output folder, click a few options. This is only 20 seconds long, or not even that, I promise. There's me dragging, I'm trying to show you. There's my monitor number 2, grabbing it back. So on the right there, you'll see the map get created. There it is, it's a PDF for U2511. I'm gonna open it up. All right, so that's all created from scratch. There's your map. There's all your information on the left. It's got the legend. It's got your improved route data, new location data. There's your cross-section and all the information, all directly coming from the Geo Database using tools, all these automated tools. That is a whirlwind. I got more videos if you want to see them. I'm out of time. That's a really quick whirlwind tour of this whole thing, and that we serve transportation planning department with all this. And there's hours more about CTP if you want to know. That's it. I'm out.
Amazing, right? Amazing.
Thanks.